morning. Today is February 6, 2024. We are at the King Flint Hall in at the University of Florida to interview the owner and the head of operations of Sandwich Inn, which is a drive-thru restaurant located at 110 Northeast 16th Avenue, Gainesville, in Florida 32601. And this is part of the Oral History Project for the Gainesville Business History program that the History Department is undergoing. If you can please introduce yourselves and tell me.
Yes, I'm Bob Rella, and this is my daughter, Ashley Rella.
And please, Bob, can you tell me a little bit more about yourself, and also if you can tell me what year were you born?
1951, which makes me 73. Mm-hmm. And I graduated from the University of South Florida in 1973 and moved to Gainesville and took a job with General Foods Corporation and for a few years. And then I met someone in Ocala that was selling Hawaiian Tropic suntan oil, which nobody at that point had ever heard of. And I quit my job with General Foods and started selling Hawaiian Tropic suntan oil. I had a territory which included Gainesville, Tallahassee, and everything in between. And Hawaiian Tropic, which is based in Ormond Beach, had a screen printing operation there that I was fascinated with, and they printed t-shirts. So I got them to print me some college t-shirts. Back then there wasn't any licensing, any royalties. It was just wide open, and I set the t-shirt operation up in the same stores that I was selling Hawaiian Tropic to. Mm-hmm. And it was very successful. Then I did my own. They were printing my shirts. Then I did my own by buying some equipment and bought a warehouse, and that expanded. Mm-hmm. And till I got Walmart and did a couple million a year with them in Florida, selling college t-shirts. Eventually, that went south. So I needed something to do, and a friend of mine had a friend who owned the Sandwich Inn restaurant, and I bought it from him. I saw all those cars coming through there and that wad of cash this guy had in his hand. I said, this might be a good business. And it was.
Yeah, so you were born in Florida? Are you originally?
Orlando. I'm from Orlando. Right. That's where I grew up.
Awesome. And what was your previous relationship perhaps with the drive-thru business? Have you seen
I had absolutely no experience in the restaurant business whatsoever. But I had experience managing people and managing a business. And in fact, the t-shirt business was much bigger than this Sandwich Inn business. So, of course, I needed something to do, and I had three young kids I had to put through college, and I bought it. Mm-hmm. And from a guy, his name was Paul Hildebrand. He was the second owner of the Sandwich Inn. I'm only the third owner in 50 years, 60 years.
When did it first open?
1963.
And you bought it in?
1996.
Wonderful.
Right, so I've owned it since then and still do.
What was around the Sandwich Inn that perhaps made you buy it, or what do you remember of that moment, those years around when you bought it?
Well, I was in my early 40s and I was scared to death of not having enough money to feed my family and pay my mortgage, so I just jumped in. In fact, 30 days after I bought it, I started breakfast. They had never sold breakfast there. And I started breakfast. I was trying to decide what to use for bread, toast, or, and I said, well, we get these fresh daily hamburger buns. Let's just use those. And it has turned out to be very successful.
Brilliant move.
And that was right 30 days?
30 days after I bought it in 1996. So October 1st, we started breakfast in 1996.
And what did that imply? So you came in, there probably were some systems in place or some ways work was done?
Well, we needed some bacon and eggs. Yeah, we needed bacon and eggs, and we had everything else.
What about the cooking? You didn't have any. Did you have any
I had
cooking?
not me, but I had grill chefs, grill cooks that cooked the food. And when they didn't show up in the morning, which happens occasionally, that's when I ran the grill.
Mm-hmm. Best breakfast in town.
It is.
And the first cookers stayed from the previous owner, so there wasn't any stop to the business.
That's true. He had some pretty good staff in there, and eventually there was turnover, and they were just all our people. So,
how was that possible? What did you have to? What did you realize to make that change?
Well, people come and go in the restaurant business. I assume all businesses, but we wanted people that wanted to work. And,
turnover was a little different than what you were probably dealing with.
Oh yeah.
Prior to, a lot more frequent.
So I'm thinking today there is, and we'll talk about later about this maybe about networks. What kind of networks were at that point in terms of where did you find workers? In terms of where do you find the suppliers? We were
back
talking
then
about the shows, the food shows, right?
Yeah, we had a major supplier, Florida Food Service, and we still do. We still use them after all these years. They've been bought out by another company, but it's the same basic company. And over the years, I split the business, went with some different suppliers, but I always came back to Florida Foods.
Why?
Well, their integrity, the high integrity level, and they were competitive as anybody, and they were local. If we needed something, we'd go pick it up.
Right.
And our relationship with our sales rep is probably the number one key to this relationship.
Right.
So he's just as important to our business as
he's a
other
partner.
pieces.
It's a partnership.
And you'd say, in terms of volume, but also relationship, how has it changed that from when you bought it to now? Is there?
Well, I started breakfast, and has built into something big. And over the years we've changed our hours, but the breakfast has gotten huge. So our volume has increased. Overall volume.
Our top sellers now are breakfast items, and the majority of our business now is breakfast, regardless of the time of day.
Right.
So really, we've turned from a little hamburger joint into a little breakfast joint. Like, it's definitely the bigger piece of our business now.
Right. So from the start of you owning the business to now, can you tell me what have been maybe the highs and lows of perhaps of dealing with the local government?
We're pretty small. We're pretty small, so I've always not wanted to do anything to stir up anything with the city of Gainesville. So they pretty much leave us alone.
So having a business in Gainesville means support, not support?
I don't know about support. But if people give the city of Gainesville a bad name business-wise, I don't feel that way. I feel like they've done some good things.
Could you mention some moments where it's been?
They've left us alone.
That is important, actually.
They've left us alone.
Yeah, I would say left us alone is probably the best piece of that. In other words, just really hasn't, tried to micromanage anything that we're doing. That being said, as far as support, I don't see that as much.
Right. What do you think are your advantages in comparison to other businesses? But think about this in time. Like there was no other businesses like us for a long time.
That's true.
Now it's just cheap. I mean,
There's a lot of competition now. There wasn't 28 years ago.
What was around the Sandwich Inn?
Not much.
When did
That Burger King and Wendy's, that's it.
And those came in?
Well, they were there in the 80s.
Yeah.
So the Sandwich Inn had already been there 20 years. But I didn't own it then.
right.
The original owner, John McMillan, panicked when Wendy's on Main Street opened and sold the business to Paul Hildebrand, the gentleman that I bought it from.
Right.
I don't know why he would panic. I mean, we have a good location. It's easy in, easy out. In fact, you couldn't even get that. The city of Gainesville wouldn't approve that now. They would not approve that drive-through. It's called concurrency.
Right.
And they would not approve the Sandwich Inn property. But we're there.
Wait, explain that.
Well, you know, we're grandfathered in. You know, we have...
The flow of traffic for that street.
Got it. Okay. Because it creates more traffic, and they prefer to have the traffic on Main Street.
We were so busy at lunchtime 25 years ago that we used to block the road. And that's one thing they did. They threatened me. He said, you got to stop this. You got to figure something out because you can't block the road. And I agree with that. So we picked up the pace.
Tell me more about that. How did that then?
Blocking the road. You know, the drive-throughs go out to the 16th Avenue there, and if there are people waiting to get through the Sandwich Inn and the traffic can't pass, that's a problem.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, as they started building out 16th Avenue, like towards Waldo, like when they built the Walmart out there, it created a different flow of traffic, which meant there was more traffic down 16th Avenue. And there are times, regardless of how fast we're working, that, you know, the lines can get a little long and they would start to block the roads. I think sometimes the customers would figure that out and they'd pull into the drive-thru and maybe walk up to the back window. So they kind of self-regulated a little bit around that. But yeah, I mean, if we ever see a line to the road, that's one of the first things we'll say in the building is like, chop, chop. We got to get them in and out. But it is congested in that area. You've got
a lot of traffic.
The strip. You've got the two strip areas and the gas station over there. So there's a lot of in and out traffic right at that corner.
Yeah, that is an important intersection too, Main and that is not a big road, so it's just one.
No.
But it is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's three schools there on that road, and so that the afternoon traffic gets pretty heavy.
All the way down. Yeah.
Right. So right when you bought it was the height of these of the interstate system, right? It was when it started to really be big, and probably you saw all the cars, and that's what you thought would make a good business.
Yeah.
Right. Did you notice?
And I was right. It did.
So tell me about that. It grew over time, right?
Yeah, it has grown over time, and you know, we're doing a nice volume of business there, and there's only so much you're going to do because of the limitations of drive-thrus.
What are those?
People don't want to wait.
Well, you've got to have good food fast. And so, yeah, there is a little bit of an impatience when you are in your car getting food. You expect this very fast service. And one of the things that we've held onto is we've cooked everything fresh to order. So there's a balance in the systems that we create, and there's a balance in how we are able to get food out, you know, in a timely manner. And
Yep.
I think really building systems in there is probably one of the bigger pieces that helps us flow better and move things like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
So
Tell me about those systems.
So we have on the front side of the restaurant, we have a line, if you will, and it starts at the speaker with a sandwich board, a grill, and a fryer. Each position is trained specifically for their position, but there is a lot of what we call shift to assist in the kitchen. And so while there's 4 positions, there may be only 2 people on the line, which means they have to shift back and forth. Knowing what the responsibilities are of each position, knowing the flow of business as an order is placed till it is sent out the window, all of those are key pieces to making sure that things run smoothly in there. Training, obviously, is number 1 in all of that. So creating a really good system, having really good training is how we keep things flowing in there.
When I bought the restaurant, all the orders were manually written in tags. And I bought a POS system. It changed everything.
When did that happen?
About 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
The POS system enters orders, and there's a kitchen printer that prints them out and you stick them up. There's less chance for mistakes, which is good, because that's the worst thing in the world is to have mistakes with people's orders.
It did help with consistency a little bit. When you're getting into shorthand, there are a lot of things that can get confused and or missed. But yeah, we used to handwrite orders and pop them up on the ticket bar. When the POS system came in, it just made that a little bit easier and faster. But we also had to do training with that too, and building that system to meet our needs was also a key piece in making that actually be a good tool for us to use.
So where and what are your regular hours? Yours, not the business. So you
Working hours?
Right.
I'm there at 4 o'clock in the morning. With another manager who is also there at 4 o'clock in the morning. We open at 6 a.m., so that time is spent putting away a truck, putting away or setting things up for breakfast, kind of getting our cooking done, our prep done, so we're ready to go in the morning. Some mornings we have large call-in orders, so we're prepping ahead of time so that we can get all of that prepared. And then ideally, in a perfect world, I would be leaving around 1 o'clock. Never happens. So I'm usually there until about 3:30.
It's a long day.
It makes for a very long day. We are open Monday through Friday. I will say we used to be open on Saturday, which we did well. It was still one of maybe our slower days of the 6 days we were open. But that just never guaranteed any time off. So it was kind of one of those
Changed the hours. Saturdays weren't busy for a couple reasons. The schools aren't open.
Yeah.
And we have school traffic coming through there.
Game days could make that go sideways too.
Yeah, and the blue collar plumbers and electricians that are the basis of a lot of our business, they're off on Saturdays.
Right.
So.
Tell me a bit more about your clients and how you connect with them.
Well, we have, blue collar people is what I call them. The plumbers and electricians and carpenters, they come through heavily and they like our food. So that's how we connect with them.
Yeah, I would
getting them good food.
Yeah, I would say I think we really have a large span of customers. I think we do have the locals who obviously have known us for a while and are absolutely supporters of us. We do have college students / younger crowd. Although we don't see tons of UF, we do get a decent amount of younger students who are looking for good food, cheap, fast. I think blue collar is absolutely hands down
Number one.
Our big piece. And I think our connector piece in all of that is that, first of all, it's food, it's affordable food that's made well, so they can get it quickly and be on their way to work in the morning. But I think one of the other pieces is our service. I think first thing in the morning, before the sun's even up, we have a handful of customers that come through that are almost daily customers. And so we get to learn them and their orders and what they like, and sometimes can do a wave or a hand signal and get them over to the window to be able to have their food out the window. And very little words are exchanged, and or the words that are exchanged are not just a transaction, but are more of developing a relationship with them. And we've done that forever.
Yeah,
That's
you know
always
about what
been
you eat.
Yeah, we know your order more than we would know your name.
That's funny.
Often. But I do think it matters. I think people do like that personalized piece anywhere we go. We often, that's a piece that matters. And I think they appreciate that. And heck, for us, it just makes it easier, right? Like if we see you and we know what you want, we can start cooking it immediately, have you out the door in seconds. So, yeah.
I want to talk about that kind of local but also family business matter or connection. But let's also talk about technology. So you mentioned the POS system.
Point of sale.
Right,
is what that is.
But what about other equipment, other updated pieces of technology that were introduced over time?
Well, that POS system is pretty good. It does a lot of different things.
Yeah, that's probably our biggest piece as far as technology is concerned in the restaurant. I mean, there's been updates on equipment and refrigeration.
Right.
I don't know, is something as simple as a QR code on our refrigeration system so we can order parts that are accurate instead of having to wait for times, to figure it out and then it be the wrong thing and have to return it. Yeah, some of that exists, but really at the end of the day, it really is our POS system that changed everything for us. The first one we got was, it was fine. At the time, but it slowly became a dinosaur. It just became a monster to deal with almost every day. The system would break down.
We stayed with it longer than we should have.
It was, yeah. Well, and some of that is because it's not an easy, you don't take it out and put it in. You don't just do that. So we did hold on to it for a while, and it was just becoming very, very problematic. I think their technology had reached its capacity. I don't think they were going any further with that. And so I sought out a new system, which is really brand new. I want to say October, September, I think.
Yeah, we just...
Do you know the name of the old...
Yep, the old one was Harbor Touch / Lighthouse. And I think that name has changed or switched a few times. I think now it's Shift 4 or something. We switched to Toast.
What a name for their business.
And Toast actually started as an app and then kind of grew. And they were one of those companies, and don't quote me on all of the details around Toast, that's not my business. But they started as an app, built a huge business. COVID kind of hit them, but then also created an opportunity for them, and then after that have just been soaring. And you'll find them in a lot of restaurants now, even locally. There's a lot of people that are using that system. And what's beautiful about that system is it's not just POS for the restaurant, but it integrates with third parties a lot easier. So any kind of online ordering or delivery systems, it will also integrate with your website now, so you can do online ordering with your website and connecting those. Whereas before, trying to get all of those pieces working or even to work almost didn't happen.
So it made time cards obsolete.
Yeah, yeah. So we have probably since the beginning have used punch cards for time.
Yeah.
And we are now using our system to log hours on the computer, so it tracks labor. It has tons of reporting that's super helpful for sales, looking at numbers, what's working, what's not working. So there's a lot of information, a lot more information we're able to get that it helps us make decisions and run the business a little bit easier now. So that's huge.
Yeah,
I would say.
I agree.
And we're probably using 35% of what the system is capable of doing as well.
That's
so
true.
like there's a lot more we could be doing, but some of that it takes time to.
We were still a mom and pops.
Yeah.
What
Pops.
about that? Tell me about marketing a bit more. So you said you connect with the customer because you're a known business, right?
Yeah.
But also, like I see your sign, the colors. How do you think about all that? And
I like it.
that
I think it's
changed?
attractive, but we don't have much of an advertising budget. But a lot of restaurants in Gainesville do, and we don't.
Well, I
Some.
would, and I would say not just advertising, but I think there were some choices that were made to market the business. So, we did switch the color from Kelly green to the lighter blue color. And started using
Miami
it's that color.
Colors.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was nice. It kind of gave it an uplift, or, like a facelift, if you will. And, when we started, I think a lot of our advertisement and or communication would be through the newspaper or the Alligator, doing advertisements, setting up with local businesses, connecting, doing some donations and advertising spots in magazines.
We could probably do a better job of advertising. But I'm not sure it would help because there's only so many cars that are going to get through there.
Well, and also it shifted a little bit. So when I did come back in mid 2000s, I did set up our website and I did set up a Instagram page, a Facebook page, right? So that's when I really started taking pictures. I guess this will kind of go back to what you were talking about earlier, is that there aren't a lot of pictures that existed. There wasn't a lot of information about the Sandwich Inn. It kind of was word of mouth, and that was what people knew. And I did want us to have a little bit of a presence. So I started taking pictures, and some of that got creative or fun, and then some of it was also just really good food pictures and would make you hungry. So I started that page, and I feel like we got a lot of followers. I felt like that expanded things a little bit in town. It kind of gave us a reach that you don't get on Northeast 16th Avenue in Gainesville. So I think it was helpful to do that. And I think, I've started noticing almost immediately when we started doing that people were coming in because of that. So we would be able to advertise or do a special or talk about something that they were interested in, and we'd see them on their way. And I would say the other piece to that is there's a lot of groups in town. A couple of them are like burger fans, or just different kinds of groups of or influencers, or people who there's a whole group of people that will just go try burgers around town, and that's just what they do. And I love that. I want to be part of that if I wasn't cooking them all day. But even having them talking about our food, or even that they would compare us to Max or to Bev's Better Burgers or some of the food trucks that do burgers around here. I think all of that conversation is very helpful. I think we'll keep that direction going for sure.
So before we talk about the future of Sandwich Inn, you mentioned Sandwich Inn could you tell me a bit more about the previous owners, who they were, and didn't they also own other restaurants?
Paul Hildebrand did. He owned, I'm trying to think, he was there on
Whataburger.
Whataburger.
Yeah.
Yep. And he sold it to me. He got to be my age now and decided to bail. And
what about that
Bev's Better Burgers?
Right.
Well, Paul Hildebrand opened a second location, Sandwich Inn, in Alachua. And that didn't work out for whatever reason. Maybe he couldn't couldn't control it, but he sold it to Beverly, whoever Beverly is, and she converted it to Bev's Better Burgers, and now she's got a location in High Springs. And so that's kind of a local thing, but it used to be a Sandwich Inn in Alachua.
So Glenn McMillan was the original. He's the one
Right.
that opened the Sandwich Inn in '63 and then sold it
To
in
Paul
the
Hildebrand
80s.
in the 80s. To Paul Hildebrand. John Mott owned the property, and he was going to put a gas station there. He was going to put a gas station where the Sandwich Inn is now, and that's what he owned, Mott Tires and gas stations and whatever. And he had 4 or 5 locations, and he's a great guy. He sold me that property about 15 years ago, and that's been a good move because now we don't have any debt. The Sandwich Inn has no debt. There are quite a few restaurants that go out of business in Gainesville, and one of the main reasons is rent and overhead.
We have debt, but it's controllable.
We don't have much. We don't have much
But
debt.
not much.
Not much.
Correct. And I think that's a really big piece. That was a huge decision that you made, knowing that moving forward, there was a possibility that property could be taken away, and then we would be left with nowhere to go. So I think that was a huge move.
The guy I bought it from went behind my back to John Mott and tried to buy it, which not have been good because what do you think he would have done with me? But John didn't sell it to him. He said, I'm going to sell this to Bob. And what a great guy. He gave me 4 months to come up with the money, and I did. So it's been a good move.
That's quite a long time.
4 months?
Yeah, or not?
You try to find, all that money in 4 months. I found somebody, a friend of mine who's rich, and he lent me the money.
An angel investor.
That's right.
Yeah,
It worked out well for both of us.
You don't get money for restaurants. You don't get loans. You don't get
Not easily.
any of that. Banks are not interested in, because they're just so volatile. So it makes, we get it, but yeah, to find money,
Yeah, ours is
You
not.
don't
Our
go
business
through
is not volatile.
you don't go through
all.
financial places
what
for
sort
that.
of activities or business strategies or initiatives you need financing for?
Nothing.
At the moment, nothing.
For yeah.
Before-
We have money. Personal money. If we need something, we buy
that's
it.
fine.
If we need something, we need equipment, we buy it for cash.
Right.
I don't borrow money.
Yeah, we are set up that if something is to go down or we have to replace something, that we do it, but by no means do we take loans out or borrow for that. And I think that's
That's what kills a lot of these restaurants in
huge
Gainesville.
piece.
Debt.
Yeah, I think it's a huge piece of what keeps us operating is that we can do that. We
Yeah.
have enough to be able to do that. So.
The biggest thing that I had to buy there in the last 28 years was I had to repave that parking lot. And it was $55,000. So I located the money. And then I paid it all back in about 6 months.
He is
So
really
I-
good finding money. I'm not sure how he does. And I need to learn that part from him because I don't know how
Necessity
he does
is the mother of invention.
that. True. Very true.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how expensive it was. I got 3 bids and that was the lowest one to pave that park. $55,000. Doesn't that seem a little high? $55,000?
I think that's just where it is now. But yeah, of course that's high.
They did it in one day. That's one of the reasons why I like this company. They did it in one day and we didn't have to shut down.
That's great.
It
We didn't have to.
We shut down for one day. I just thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Tell me more about challenging moments. I'm thinking COVID, but also other times when you maybe thought we need to close, or you had.
No, I don't think so.
No, those do happen. Those absolutely happen. So we have come in and our fire suppression has gone off because the hood system wasn't running and we had equipment on. And so obviously it got too hot, fire suppression went off. And when that happens, it releases the the liquid or
Right.
whatever it is, and it gets everywhere. So
But that's one day.
yeah, you don't just open back up from that. You have to now do a deep clean in the kitchen. You've got to get everything set back up. You've got to have the suppression system fixed, and then you're back open. Usually that can happen same day, not all the time, and then we are shut for a day. There's other situations that have hurt. I mean, we
The
had
vent
a
fan has gone out.
yeah. Without a hood system, you can't run the grill. So the hood system would knock us out. See, it's frustrating. You can already tell. Refrigeration going down.
That doesn't
people,
shut you down, though.
too many people not showing up. Like at some point in time, it still takes a team to be able to run the place, and even that's caused some issues. I think usually it's stuff like that.
Yeah, we are a small business.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit more about COVID.
That affected us upward. We were not hurt by COVID because we didn't shut down. We were a drive-through. A lot of
Minimal interaction.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we boomed during COVID.
Like boom in what terms? Did
Increase
you
in
double?
sales,
No.
not double.
Okay.
Not possible to double.
No, but where people really started struggling because there was no. I think the piece for COVID is that things still had to operate. So while a lot of us were quarantined and in homes, there were still, plumbers having to do work
Schools.
and GRU still needing to run, their facilities. Schools still happened, even though they were closed down for a short period of time. Hospitals were still open. So
Yeah.
this was an option for people. Drive-through was still an option. There was minimal,
We got phone calls, people asking if we were open.
minimal contact. Even our team was able to just kind of stay.
Yeah, nobody got COVID. That was my biggest fear.
No, a few of them did,
Got COVID.
but none of our big hitters did. But there were a few. Yeah, there were a few that got it.
Well, didn't everyone get COVID at some point?
Right,
Yeah.
right. Also that. But yeah, I mean, I think in general that it still maintained business
Yeah,
through that whole period of time. So
it's been steady since forever. That's why it's still there.
We are wrapping up now, but I'd like you to maybe reflect a little bit on what it is to be a business
Owner.
person in the United States in this time. Also thinking about you as a family doing business, and then Ashley, if you can also kind of comment on what it means to be the daughter of the owner, but also a woman in the restaurant business.
sure.
Ashley has a degree from Johnson & Wales. She has a restaurant background and training professionally. I'm lucky to have her. She's excellent at owning a restaurant, and that's what you have to have. But all three of my kids have worked there. Some of them not long. Not long.
I think Natalie lasted a week.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Alex worked there through
He-
high school and college a little bit.
He did, but not much. But it is a family business, and I've enjoyed it. It's had its ups and its downs, but it is satisfying. To own a successful business for all these years.
It's a headache, right? I mean, it's absolutely a headache.
All
Some days
businesses
are
are a
worse
headache,
than
really. I mean, there's problems in most businesses.
But there's some liberty in the fact that you're the owner and you
Yeah.
get to make the calls and
We've made a lot of good decisions over the years. Not having any debt is one of them. So we could withstand a lot. These businesses that go under in the restaurant business in Gainesville, they're just got too much debt, and they can't manage it.
Tell me a bit more about those decision-making moments when you, instead of having to go to a board, you're in your kitchen.
we get to make that call. Yeah, we get to make that call, which I think is great. Like if we do need to have a piece of equipment, we're able to do that, take care of it, get it installed. We have great relationships with our plumbers and our electricians and the people who keep us also running. So we can make those calls and in the same day someone be able to show up, thankfully, and be able to get things.
We have the same problems other people do, but one of the things I've always done, I've always had a good CPA. You have to have, they do our taxes and accounting. I have good bookkeeper, and we do our own payroll.
Right.
We don't have. It's only 7 or 8 employees.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Any other professional
Insurance.
contractors that?
Yeah, we have professional people for insurance. Yeah, property casualty. That's important.
Yeah, I think our relationships with these people are really
Long term.
Yeah, we've stayed local with it, so as
Long
well.
term.
Yeah.
We probably, our two main insurances are work comp and property casualty, and we've been with each of those companies for 20 years. So there's no surprises. It helps.
Right. And Ashley, tell me a bit more about being a businesswoman.
Yeah, we mentioned this the other day a little bit. I will say that any business, right, not just the Sandwich Inn, but I've been in a lot of kitchens, which is why I do know how to run one, is that I've had a lot of different experiences. I've seen a lot of things. Kitchens are hard for to be a woman in. They tend to be very type A personality. You've got a lot of big, aggressive male personalities and people in kitchens. Chefs tend to be really intense and want their things their way. And there does seem to be this underlying idea that women don't know how to do things in kitchens, even though we say that's the place we're supposed to be.
That's changing, though.
Yeah, well, sure. I think there's a constant ebb and flow with what is acceptable, if you will. Yeah, I've always had to prove my point, or I've proved my place. I've always had to work twice as hard to make sure that someone knew I was capable of doing something. But I do think that once it was figured out, they realized that I was able to do it, and then I was able to actually do my piece. Other than that, I mean, I run the business like I would, anyone else would. I make sure that customers are taken care of, employees are taken care of. The interactions with everyone is as, I don't know. Yeah, I think, don't have words for it right now, but I think just running the place every day, like if you were going to be running or I was going to be running it, I think it would be about the same. I will say there's been a few times like when I've got a lot of things like going through my head, a lot of ideas or thoughts or scenarios that have happened, but I mean like there's times where I will have someone be, ask for the manager or the owner or the operator, and they're disappointed that it's me. They want it to be someone else, and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a few of them. Like, where's they are looking to speak to him. And when I try to explain to them, like, he's not in the business, he owns the business, but he is not here, and I am the one making the calls, there is kind of a setback for a second, like, oh, okay, well, usually will happen, and so it's like, okay, continue.
Get over it. Get over it.
But yeah, I mean, it has always been a struggle. I think it will continue to in some capacity, but eventually, we're doing fine. The business is doing great. I'm grateful that it is in the position that it is right now and that we continue to move forward with it,
Yep.
with the direction that we're going.
Exactly.
Let's do then the last question, which would be, have you tried to expand it, make it bigger, make something else out of Sandwich Inn, and what is the future of Sandwich Inn?
So you're asking me if I want a second location or franchising?
If you ever...
I thought
No.
about it. Gainesville, for us to have a drive-through capacity, it would be so expensive. It'd be prohibitive. We'd have to, I looked into it 15, 20 years ago, but then I figured just one of them is enough for me. It might not be for Ashley, you never know, but at some point in time, but not now.
And we have been approached as Gainesville has shifted and moved towards Newberry and Alachua, Williston area. Like as everything's kind of moving in that area and places are being built, we have been approached by people if we wanted a different, a separate location. I'm not even sure if they were looking at it from a drive-through point of view or if it would be, like in a shopping center where you would be able to come in and do a walk-up counter.
Wouldn't be the same.
It wouldn't be the same, absolutely. Expanding's hard, right? One location is already hard enough, and then you go into a second one, and you really have to build a team, and you have to be able to trust that team, and then you also have to really rely on systems to make it right, or you wind up with two completely different restaurants. And I think some of that is, it's a lot, and I don't know if that's the direction.
Paul Hildebrand, the guy I bought it from, found that out when he tried to open a second Sandwich Inn in Alachua. Didn't work. He couldn't be there all the time.
Well, you can't, right? You can't be there all the time, and then you have two locations, and if someone's preparing something different in one or the other, do you create a commissary kitchen and then try to, move things in those directions so that both locations are having the same items? Yeah. I don't see a second location or a franchise ever happening unless the perfect situation were to, come about. But it would have to be...
It's not going to be me.
With a company or an organization that, would be able to bring the other side of a franchise or a second business. And I don't think it will be this duo trying to get a second location.
No, one's enough.
One's enough. That's an old building over there. We'd love to have a new one, but no, we know this one too well. You stick with the devil, right?
Well, thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.
Thank you.